Well, this is not going to be good news. This is terrifying, in fact, and I'm not even trans. But I care about trans people, because trans people are my friend. So, this was posted by Alejandra Carabello, and it's, a little plan that the Heritage Foundation has. You know, the guys who wrote Project 2025, aka the handbook that Trump has been following to bring fascism to America, and to destroy our democracy and our very way of life, just like they warned us the communists would do. You see, the Heritage Foundation is coming out with another absolute stinker, an absolute stinky, wet, sloppy turd on our faces, that being a document laying out a plan on how to exterminate trans people, pretty much. Yeah, it's basically the trans eradication policy proposal, sponsored by Project 2025. Yeah, this is some bad shit. I'm not exactly thrilled about this, but let's give it a read, because we kind of need to know what's going on, and God forbid if you're trans, you do not want to be caught off guard by this kind of thing. Should policy like this be adopted, or start to gain prominence, and you're given the opportunity to vote against it maybe, or at least speak out against it and inform people on why these particular policies are so evil. So here's the leaked files, or I wouldn't say they're leaked, they're just kind of recently published in the last hour. Transgender ideology-inspired violent extremism, or TIVE. Background, and I cannot wait to see TIVE be the, like, new stupid acronym that we're gonna see everywhere. This is gonna go from being like, what the fuck is TIVE, to everyone is saying it. Like, every time there's a mass shooting, someone's gonna say TIVE, question mark? Trans ideology-inspired violent extremist? Alright. Background and FAQs on need for an FBI domestic terrorism designation of trans people. They literally want an FBI domestic terrorism designation for being transgender. Guys, it's time to wake up. If you're a lefty out there and you're trans and you've been ignoring politics because it's just been too much for you, it's time to wake up and lock the fuck back in. Because whether you like it or not, the government might be about to declare you a terrorist for existing. Transgender ideology, or TI, is a belief that wholly or partially rejects fundamental science. It does not, by the way. About human sex being biologically determined before birth, binary and immutable. This would be the same as if they wrote a document about how climate change isn't real and tried to pretend as though, like, people who believe in climate change are denying science. Meanwhile, like 99.98% of every scientist is out here claiming, yeah, no, like climate change is definitely real. Transgender ideology-inspired violence and extremism, or TIVE. This threat encompasses the potentially unlawful use or threat of force or violence against incitement to unlawful violence in furtherance of ideological agendas derived from transgender ideology and related beliefs. So this is a threat that encompasses violence. Trans people are a violent threat, is what they are claiming here. And this is the basis of their belief. 1. The belief that violence is justified against people who oppose trans ideology, who decline to support or affirm trans ideology, or who are silent or indifferent regarding trans ideology, or the belief that opposing trans ideology, declining to support or affirm trans ideology, or remaining silent or indifferent regarding trans ideology itself constitutes a form of violence towards people who identify as any variant of transgender or gender nonconforming. So basically what they're claiming now is that being transgender is terroristic. Because to be transgender, you must believe that being transphobic is violence on you, and claiming that someone's beliefs are committing violence on you is terroristic, because that means you believe violence is justified against them for their beliefs. God, these people are so retarded? Not retarded, Lucid Burgundy. Evil. There's actually a key difference in this case. They believe it is a true threat to the existence of such persons, or poses an imminent threat to such persons' emotional, psychological, or physical safety, including through self-harm or suicide. So they're basically arguing that because trans people are hurt by transphobia, and argue that that is violence upon them, that trans people secretly believe violence is a justifiable act in response to transphobia, and so trans people need to be identified as a terrorist group. Or organization. Yeah, that's right, guys. Transgender people. The terrorist organization. The assassination of Charlie Kirk has shaken the nation. It is the latest example of a perpetrator brainwashed by a corrosive and disjointed transgender ideology to carry out horrific acts of violence against innocent Americans. No, they were mentally ill, like any killer, and that's why they killed people, not because of believing trans people are valid. Now, if you want to look at the statistics, which I know you don't, you'd be scared to do so if I was talking to the people who wrote this up on a public forum. Trust me, trans people on the left are not the threat that we need to be talking about. The first step is solving a problem. In solving a problem is identifying that one exists. Good one. The time has come to identify the threat to safety posed by this particular violent transgender ideology on Americans. The FBI has immense legal intelligence and the law enforcement tools available to keep Americans safe. Chief among them include its capabilities to counter acts of domestic terrorism and gather intelligence on other individuals that share ideological commonalities in order to prevent further attacks. The Oversight Project and the Heritage Foundation urge the FBI to designate trans ideology-inspired violent extremism, or TIVE, as a domestic terrorism threat category, and use the full toolkit of the FBI to prevent future attacks inspired by trans ideology. So being trans, or being pro-trans, you mean? That is what you mean. Oh man, are we gonna have to fact check each and every one of these? God damn it. Recent instances of TIVE-motivated acts of domestic terrorism. Tyler Robinson allegedly assassinates Charlie Kirk, citing ideological hatred. Well, he did not, in any place in the released messages that the FBI put out, did he specify it was Charlie Kirk's transphobia. He only specified it was his hate. So if you're filling in the gaps for us there that, like, transphobia is hate, then I guess, sure. But Tyler Robinson wasn't trans? I get what... Why didn't they just mention that Tyler Robinson supposedly had a trans girlfriend? Robin Westman attacks Annunciation Catholic Church and kills 2 children. Was Robin Westman trans? I feel like I need to check each and every one of these just to make sure they didn't sneak any non-trans, like, attackers under the radar, you know what I mean? Let's see, what was that name again? Robin Westman. Let's see. This was the Minneapolis shooting. In anti-transgender campaigns. Okay, so this one was a trans person. Okay. Alright, so far, no lie detected. Okay. Jared Ravisa stabs 6, including children, during gender transition. Alright, let's see about this person. Jared Raziva. Trans. New York Post. Hindustan Times. Okay, Hindustan Times is more trustworthy than New York Post, I'll tell you that. 26, allegedly stabbed 4 girls, blah, 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 2 people at McDonald's in Plymouth the same day. Besides allocation, who's going to be a male model and CEO. In previous interviews, he said he was a pro skier, model, philanthropist, and claimed to be the leader of a Ravisa Group, which is a marketing company he founded. He told the MV Times in an interview that he ran a charitable organization named Ravisa Global Initiative. Hold on, what? Is he a trans guy? Wait. No shot. We found one. Third one in. We found one that wasn't trans, guys. Look at that. At no point in this article does it seem to mention that they're trans. In fact, it specifically mentions they identify as a male model. However, I will say this image of them, if this is the image of them that went viral, then I can see how the right was able to so easily get away with the claim that this was a trans shooter. I never even heard about this one. I knew that if we fact-checked all these names, we'd find at least one that isn't actually trans, that they slipped in there to inflate the numbers. Now, considering we got to, what was it? This person was Jared Revisa, which is the third name on a list of like 10. I'm pretty sure the rest of them are going to be tangentially, at best, trans-related shootings. The fact is, they would actually be citing data and not a short list of literal, like, anecdotal stories if there was any kind of overwhelming trend they could point to. Here we go, though. Experts. What experts? From where? No, don't worry about it. Experts estimate that 50% of all major non-gang-related school shootings since 2015 have involved or likely involved transgender ideology. That's right, guys. Experts estimate that 50% of all major non-gang related, because they had to throw in the gang thing, you know, the gangs are one of their, you know, scapegoats, related school shootings since 2015 have involved or likely involved, quote-unquote, likely involved transgender ideology. What experts, by the way, also likely involved, might be carrying a lot of weight there, to say the least. To put the incidents in perspective, trans-identifying persons constitute approximately 1% of the population, according to the Williams Institute. That's right, guys. You've heard of 1350, where Nazis claim, did you know that despite only being 13% of the population, black people commit 50% of crime? Now it's the 150 meme. It's going to be, despite being 1% of the population, trans people commit 50% of all major school shootings. Wow. All bullshit and all lies. So far, I'm not surprised. Bars. Frequently asked questions in key terms. How would a TIVE, or domestic terror designation, mitigate the threat? A designation would allow the FBI to better employ advanced investigative techniques, such as human sources, data analysis, network mapping, undercover operations, etc., to prevent violence. That's right, guys. They're calling for the FBI to start doing psyops in LGBT communities. Now the meme about how, like, the trans account you're arguing with on Twitter is actually a CIA agent might actually end up being real. Does this mean that all transgender individuals or their allies are domestic terrorists? Oh boy. Let's go. No! Thank you, Heritage Foundation. Thank you. Individuals are free to identify as transgender or support LGBT causes or transgenderism in a non-violent way. They are even free to engage in offensive and hateful speech under the First Amendment, so long as they do not stray into unlawful incitement, defamation, true threat, obscenity, or some other category of non-protected speech. Wow, I did not expect the Heritage Foundation to have a more reasonable take on this than Donald Trump and his administration, who just ordered the successful firing of a guy who did a show they didn't like. The domestic terror designation becomes relevant only when individuals or groups are motivated by an ideology that encourages, promotes, or condones violence. That's a little broad, though. And take or incite lawful violent action or threats based on that ideology. Both criteria must be met. Okay, well, criteria 2 is a bit more stringent, so I can... That line in particular... As much as this is all bullshit, somehow this read is more reasonable than anything else that I've heard come out of the White House lately. Does the FBI's designation of nihilistic violent extremism, or NVE, address the problem? No. It is an overly broad designation designed to avoid the particular threat and to avoid tough conversations that may be perceived as politically incorrect. It is also logically flawed that in that TIVEs are not nihilistic, and that they are fighting for an alternate vision of life and society to replace the existing social order, and often characterize themselves wrongly as acting in defense of their worldview. TIVE classification differs from nihilistic violent extremism because NVEs refer to a form of extremism characterized by a sense of meaninglessness and a lack of ideological substance cohesion. TIVEs, on the other hand, are not driven by meaninglessness and use violence to coerce and intimidate the public or government into accepting their view of the transgender debate. Well, must be terrorists if you're trans then, I guess. Wow. So, that's right, folks. The article itself, or not the article, the proposal by the Heritage Foundation itself, literally full of lies, and I didn't really have to do that much Googling to find them. You know, it's not... When it comes to fact-checking the right, like, you don't even need to fact-check 100% of what they say. Just fact-check the most recent thing they said, and it'll probably be a lie and say, oh, look at that. What are the chances that the most recent thing they said, I run a fact check on it and it's a lie? You don't have to do fact check every lie they tell, but the fact that you can just throw a dart at the board and probably hit a lie, I think that alone, pointing that out alone, is a pretty powerful argument. Maybe to me it is, but not to most. I could be wrong. But I'm curious what the reaction to this news has been. Let's read some of the comments. Trump doesn't come up this shit. It's always the Heritage Foundation. They're evil bastards. 50% of all school shootings were trans is fucking insane. I agree. It is maybe the reach of the century. We got a Shogun meme. I feel fucking sick and I don't even know how to look my trans friends in the eye. Well, I mean, how to look them in the eye and hug them, dog. Like, be there for them. These are scary times. I'm not confused on how to engage with my trans friends right now. It's be fucking supportive and, God, if, like, either help them escape the situation or if they can't physically escape it, help them engage in some escapism. Make their day a little better. Despite the fact that I never voted for any of this shit, I still feel deep shame and complicity, because whenever I do, it's never enough. It's so sad that the people who actually went out of their way to vote and prevent this stuff from happening feel the most guilt, but those like Hasan who literally encourage their fans, well, okay, to be fair, I can't necessarily say that Hasan encourages fans not to vote for Kamala Harris, but he didn't encourage them to vote for Kamala Harris, I'll tell you that. God, do I have to show the clip now that I mentioned it? I'm gonna get hate comments now, and people are gonna be like, when did Hasan say that? Give me a moment. Here it is. Alright. Yeah, for those that don't know, this is the clip that I'm talking about, and I mention it a lot. Dude, I need to get a soundboard to be able to play these clips just with a click of a button, or even better, like, get a button that pops up the video and just plays it whenever I need to. But, yeah, this is Hasan voting on stream. This is when Hasan voted on stream. Hasan has since lied about this, by the way. You have to find mirrors of this clip, because he wiped it all from the face of the internet. This is a pretty hard to find clip, but this Reddit page has thankfully gone unscathed. But here's the clip of Hasan absolutely not endorsing Kamala Harris on election day.
Did I forget the president? No, I did not forget the president. I voted for the president. I'm just not telling you who I voted for. I am not going to influence your opinion in any direction unless it is to vote por Trump, in which case I will tell you not to do it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I can at least respect that he told his fans not to vote for Trump, right? Right? Like, does that not drip with, like, guys, I can't get away with saying it out loud, but do not vote for Kamala Harris. What the fuck is wrong with you, Hasan? Well, like, I didn't mean to derail the segment too much, but, you know, if I mention Hasan like that, if I verbatim say Hasan said a thing, there's always comments saying, when did Hasan say that? I've never heard it. And I'm like, oh, if I can prove Hasan said that and that makes a difference, I'll play the clip. Okay. So now whenever I mention something like that, I try to bring up the clip immediately after. Anyway, folks, sorry to get stun-locked there towards the end, but overall, this entire situation, it's just absolutely vile to me, frankly. Like, I'm surprised that I haven't seen more people talking about it. And I know it's only been like an hour since this news hit, but like, dude, the Heritage Foundation published Project 2025. If Project 2025 was scary, and and you should have been scared of it, then this is just as scary, if not scarier, dude. This is a big problem. Anyway, folks, if y'all enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, or educational in any way whatsoever, and you want to support my stuff, then consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon to turn on all notifications so you get notified when I upload new stuff in the future. You know, follow my social medias, linked down below in the description if you want to see more from me, particularly my Discord if you want to be a part of things like the movie night I'll be hosting tonight and every other Friday, every week, like we always do. Make sure to join the Discord if you want to be there. It's a great time. And of course, if you want to support me directly, financially, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to someone else on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merchandise through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.